Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskatyade Zatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhaisya Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Padidhanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, with your kind permission, I want to speak about 4 Radhanath Swamis. I would like to speak about the disciple of Srila Prabhupada, the Guru, the person, and the friend. Then I have something for the end. I do feel a little nervous. Please understand that I will not be able to speak from the same angle which you speak as his very devoted disciples. I'm a black ant from an unfortunate country. I will speak from that ant perspective, but also, which happens also to be the perspective of a God brother. It happens to be, because we were initiated by the same spiritual master. And I do hope, by this particular angle, to give you a glance on the personality of our birthday child, which will both enlighten you and which will help you to see him in a clearer perspective and hopefully endear him to you even more than he is already dear to you. The first perspective on Radhanath Maharaj, which I would like to offer, is seeing him as a disciple of his own spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. The background of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj is well known to us. He was actually residing in Vrindavan, looking still for his spiritual master, but living himself like a sadhu, appreciating Vrindavan. So when he met Srila Prabhupada, he immediately surrendered to him and did something which his spiritual master asked him to go to the West. First, he served very austerely the deities Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra and helped to build up the new Vrindavan community. Then later he came to Chowpatty beach, and for us as God brothers, it is extremely endearing and charming how from taking one little room, this room you can see even today, it is in the down floor, really, it looks like a mosquito infested room. How he started from there with a few helpers and made such a wonderful blooming community. For us it is a clear sign that he has gotten that most important gift from the spiritual master, that is the Guru Kripa, the mercy of the spiritual master, which helped him to spread Krishna consciousness in such a glorious way. This is a very, very obvious and very wonderful. And I think after this celebration, when you come to I mean maybe tomorrow or another day, when you come to the Chowpatty, to the Radha Gopinath Mandir, let someone show you that room. And in this room you can pray, oh, may also some of the Guru Kripa, which is nothing else than Krishna Shakti, come in my heart so that I can also become an instrument. Personally, from our perspective, Radhanath Maharaj has embraced the order of his own spiritual master very nicely and is a wonderful example. And for that we are very happy, and this is just wonderful. Hari Bol. One little incident from his life, we read today in Prabhupada Lilamrita, how Radhanath Maharaj met his spiritual master in Vrindavan. He had seen him already in Bombay, but saw him a second time in Vrindavan and paid his obeisances. And when he was lying in the obeisances, and just coming out of the obeisances, he saw Prabhupada's shoes before him. And one is, we can imagine young Radhanath Maharaj's nervousness to be so close to this spiritual personality who was carrying the whole vast amount of Krishna's mercy by which he spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, Srila Prabhupada. He was nervous. Let me share with you something. When I came to London, I still was unkempt in many ways, also by the hair, long hairs and everything. And I wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada and find out if he would be able to attract me so that I could also surrender to Krishna consciousness. I was playing with the thought, maybe I should also become a devotee. But let me see Srila Prabhupada, and if he can impress me, then I will become a devotee. So I remember when Srila Prabhupada came in the Heathrow airport, he came out behind the toll, and a huge light began to spread in the Heathrow airport. It was so blinding to me that I immediately threw myself on the ground in a defensive spirit. I had read in the Bible, don't look into the burning bush, the bush which is alight with God's presence. It will blind you. So when I looked at Prabhupada, I thought, don't look, it's too much. He is so pure, it will blind you. Therefore I threw myself down on the ground like a German does when the war is on. I was afraid that my eyesight might get hurt. So then when I came up from the obeisances, I saw right before my eyes Srila Prabhupada's shoes and dhoti. And as I looked up, I looked into his smiling face, and this face seemed to take all the anxieties away, Prabhupada seemed to say with his eyes, welcome, welcome. So this incident, how Radhanath Maharaj met Srila Prabhupada, who stood before him, is very endearing to my own life. I think Prabhupada has done it to many devotees. He just stands before them, and when they come up from the obeisances for the first time, he smiles at them and does something in their hearts. He makes these devotees his love prisoners. That we are prisoners, we cannot go, we are now his servants. So this was a little introspection in Radhanath Maharaj's one aspect of his life, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. I want to go now to the next point, the Guru. All of us godbrothers know that Radhanath Maharaj has a very attractive potency, or let me say the potency works through him. I remember when I first saw him in Heidelberg, maybe 20 years back now, and he came during the Sunday feast, and he started to dance in his way, which reminds us a little bit of Gauranga's dancing. Prabhupada said Gauranga would stretch his arms like this. And I noticed how this hard-hearted Germans were looking at him. Is he real? This is how the German looks. Is he real? And then Radhanath Maharaj carelessly was dancing by, and then he did something where I thought, this is a little dangerous. He took some of the Germans by the hand and just pulled them into the dancing area, and when they were a little too clumsy in Radhanath Maharaj's vision, he just lifted their arms and taught them how to dance in transcendental happiness. So I thought to myself, wow, if I would do it, they would beat me on the head. But he can do. He is very inspired by Lord Chaitanya and by Srila Prabhupada. So this attractive potency is there. It is not the. It is the potency of the Lord which is installed in an individual to spread Krishna consciousness. So I personally always thought Radhanath Maharaj, due to his purity, is attracting the help of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna to make impossible things work. Now he has another quality which is very important for a spiritual master. Humility. Knowing that the Shakti which is coming through him is Krishna Shakti. It's Krishna's own energy. It's Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And this humility is extremely necessary unless and until something dangerous happens on the spiritual path. So this combination of a very pure-hearted, austere Vaishnava praying for the mercy and humble in a humble mood and getting the mercy is very nice. And we are very happy to have such a nice older brother who is doing now the service of helping others to come to the lotus feet of Krishna. Also, I must say that many of his disciples carry a stamp on the forehead. That is the mood and the attitude of their spiritual masters. All of you should be very anxious to get this stamp from your spiritual master on your head, that you can represent him and carry his own mood. Humility, great humility, and at the same time, great purity and happiness to share Krishna consciousness with others. Now I want to talk about the person Radhanath Maharaj. This is delicate, but we will try. Srila Prabhupada sometimes used to say that his disciples were already connected with Krishna in a previous life. I know from some sources that when Radhanath Maharaj was a child, he would not sit on the table to eat in the American style, the food, but he would insist to sit cross-legged on the floor, even in a restaurant. I believe his father told me, or his father told one of his disciples who told me then. Then Radhanath Maharaj was practicing sadhu life even before coming to Krishna conscious, living at the bank of the Yamuna and the Ganga, which is an indication of an individual who had already some previous connection with spiritual life. One time I came into his room, this was the first time, and I saw there are only straw mattresses on the floor. There is nothing in the room except nice pictures, that has to be said, nice photographs of the deities. And I asked him, Maharaj, you live so austere, no chair, no proper table. And then he looked at me, very, you know, when you talk amongst brothers, you are very free and open. And he said, this is austere, this this austere life is my wealth. I like this very much. I like this more than the complicated life. Here is an individual, we must understand, who has sanskaras, means impressions from previous lives, which naturally draw him to a very intense, sincere and honest spiritual life. I want to share something which is of a humorous nature. Radhanath Maharaj sometimes is so kind to visit us in Germany, and then we go to different preaching venues and so on. And so I will describe you one day. Getting up, 4 o'clock, getting to the Mangal Arati, chanting the rounds, eating some small breakfast, rushing in a car, encouraging 2 grihastas to make their restaurant. We visited the restaurant. Then going into the big, huge dome of Cologne, where Christianity has given the best monument of architecture. Looking there, Radhanath Maharaj, you could see he looked at everything, thinking, we can use this type of altar for our deities. We can use this assembly hall in Radha Gopinath. Seeing this, then traveling to Frankfurt, then making a Harinam in Frankfurt, then going to Heidelberg. These are all different towns in Germany, giving an evening program in Heidelberg. And then, then it's finally 9:30 in the evening. And I cannot even think any longer. My speech is incoherent. I don't know, should I die or should I sleep? It's so exhausted. Then Radhanath Maharaj looks at me, smiles, now let us talk. And of course, I had always looked forward to that time when we would talk. And of course, it's 9:30, I can't even, then I say, Radha, good, give me 1 minute. Then I go into the next room, make a headstand so that the blood goes all in the brain. And then Radhanath Maharaj talks. And he talks beautifully about the Yamuna, about Vrindavan, and about his friend Asit Krishna, about different acquaintances. And we talk up till 1:30 in the night very nicely. I want this somewhat humorous but very realistic account of a day in Radhanath Maharaj's life tells you something, that as a person he has so much taste in Krishna consciousness that sleep and eating not so important. This is very good. It's very good to have someone like this, a good example. The fourth person, and then I will end with the persons, but I have something more, is the friend. I remember the first time I met Radhanath Maharaj was in Heidelberg. I had heard a little bit about him, just very little. And we talked the whole night. We did this program which I have just explained to you, a wonderful Sunday feast. And then we talked the whole night in a little room. And then the stream of providence came and carried him through a very eventful phase of his life. The stream of providence was carrying him so swiftly that I must say this is a bad quality. I lost sight of him for a while because he was in India and America and everywhere, and I was just thinking of Berlin, of Frankfurt, of Hamburg, towns in Germany to preach. Now 10 years later, I remembered there was this wonderful person, Radhanath Maharaj. We had spent one talkative night together. Talkative means Krishna Katha night together. What happened with this personality who was so charming and so Krishna conscious, and can I make contact? Then I wrote him a comment and said, can we meet again? And then after 10 years of only being together for a few hours, he immediately wrote back, I have not forgotten you. I will come to Germany at the earliest convenience. Imagine, a world traveler, busy to travel all around the world, remembering just one person in Germany, and then making the ticket arrangement to come and visit him. I couldn't believe it. But yes, when we were in Frankfurt at the airport, he came out of the where the tall people are, smiling, and embraced us and said, how are you? I have missed you. I thought, what? Someone has missed me and remembers me since 10 years? I was near to crying because of the kindness and the friendship and the personal commitment over the space of time of 10 years. This makes me very happy, and it makes me very proud to have such a friend. Hari Bol. Yeah. Now I wish to say a word to the disciples of Radhanath Maharaj, and then I will say a word to Radhanath Maharaj. To understand the personality of your spiritual master, you need to understand who he is as a person, and you need to understand what is his mission in life. We are here together at this wonderful festival, and I think we all feel happy. It is a festive mood, a thoughtful mood. It is also moving at times, our heart. It is a wonderful occasion. My request to you is, let this festival enter your day. Let us enter your months and years. Understand more about your spiritual master by understanding his personality. Your spiritual master wants to be seen as a servant. He very much wants to be a servant. His wish is to be a servant of his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. He is a spiritual master to all of you because he considers this a servant to his spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. You should not forget this to understand him. He wants to be a service, at service to his spiritual master. The second point is understand his desires in life. Of course, there are personal desires which I do not dare to say at this moment. I may not also know, but he has also a missionary desire to spread Krishna consciousness. If you want to be close to him, understand him as a servant of Prabhupada, and also understand him as a tireless preacher of Krishna consciousness. And try to help him in some capacity. Try to absorb some of these qualities, and you will become very close and very dear to him. Hare Krishna. On this wonderful day, I want to say something very sincere to you. Now the microphone is turned. I will tell only to you. Of course, I won't switch off the microphone, but if I have a little Brahminical quality in me, I wish So now say something from my heart which may be helpful to you. I wish you all the best. The first wish which I have is I wish that Srila Prabhupada is always in your heart. I wish that Krishna guides you, and I wish that Srimati Radharani ultimately gives you her blessing. The last thing will come out. Don't worry. I wish that Dhanvantari gives you good health. Radhanath Maharaj ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. This is a DT installation ceremony of Sri Radha Gopinath in 1988. Installation of Gopalji DT in 1990. This is a recent picture with Indradimna Maharaj, Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, with Deenabandhu Prabhu and Dhamal Krishna Maharaj, Sachinandan Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj, with Bhakti Sarup Damodar Goswami Maharaj at Ranga Kshetra, with Sridhar Maharaj in Pune, with Mahanidhi Maharaj at Jagannath Ratha Yatra Festival in Puri, at Mayapur with Sachinandan Maharaj, at Govardhan Hill with Giriraj Maharaj, at Pune Yatra with Giriraj Maharaj, with Jananivas Prabhu in Mayapur, with Jananis Prabhu in Pune, this opening 1 year celebration of Lakshmi Narayan Temple. This is in 1990 at temple. This is at the temple, recent picture. This is at Barsana, at the medical camp. This is also Barsana, Vrindavan. Capturing everyone's heart. This is at our Govardhan farm, the sugarcane field. Offering Arti to Lord Jagannath at Jagannath Puri Ratha Yatra Festival. Ratha Yatra Festival at Jagannath Puri. Ugrastamba at Ahobal Nursing. Offering Arti to Ugrastamba. Offering Arti to Lord Jagannath. This is Jagannath Puri. This is Puri Maharaj, listening from Srila Prabhupada's God brother, respecting him. This is Maharaj's very dear friend, with whom Maharaj used to stay in Vrindavan before many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples came. Asim Krishna Prabhu, who left his body just a few years back. This is at Badrinath in 1987. This is at Tiruvanantapur. This is at Kanyakumari. This is initiation ceremony at Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir. Offering Gayatri at South India Yatra. This is Ganga Snan after coming back from his study in Mussoorie. This is at Vrindavan. Repairing jeep, Mandwa. This is the place where His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj is to stay before meeting devotees joining ISKCON at Keshik Ghat. So in 97, when devotees visited, they saw that place where he is to take rest on the bank of Jamuna. This is the same place. This is Priyavrat with Maharaj. This is at Godavari at Nasik. This is Manwa. This is also Kanyakumari. This is the Rath Yatra festival with Pankajangri Prabhu and Jananivas Prabhu. I do not know who is Jananivas, who is Pankajangri. This is at Tapovan, Nasik. This is at Keshik Ghat, submerging the ashes of His Grace Abhiram Thakur Prabhu. This is also in Vrindavan, submerging the ashes of wife of His Grace Damodar Pandit Prabhu, Meru Devi Mataji. This is at Ladli Lal Barsana. Jaipur Yatra with Giriraj Maharaj at Radha Govinda Mandir. This is a train while going to Pune with Jananivas Prabhu and Rasananda Maharaj. This is at Krishna Chandra Prabhu's place, very old picture. This is at Pune Yatra, dancing along with Jayadit Maharaj. This is at South India, Kurumakshetra. This is Pune. This is Pune Yatra. Same Pune Yatra pictures. This is some place in South India. This is Badrinath. This is at Nasik, Godavari. In prayerful mood at the place of Krishna Chandra Prabhu's house. At the Rath Yatra festival, offering prayers to Lord Jagannath. Mansarovar. This is offering Abhishek to Hanumanji at Palghar. Taking dust from the feet of devotees. This is at Charan Pahadi in Mandir. This is one Babaji from Barsana. This is Prahlad calf in Belgaum, offering milk to that calf. Same calf. There is a nice story behind this. After affectionately taking this calf on his lap, this calf came down and circumambulated Maharaj and started licking his lotus feet. Very fortunate calf. This is at Hampi playing Nagari, and this is Dwarkadish Prabhu. This is at Radha Gopinath temple. This is Maharaj in 1988 with his father. This is the temple, Sri Radha Gopinath Mandir. This is rainbow gathering. Maharaj is cooking bhoga to the Lord. This is cooking for Govardhan festival. This is doing food for life in Masuri, offering halwa to these kids. When he would go to his school, they had learned chanting Hare Krishna. This is studying in Masuri. Very old picture. This is in Vrindavan, both brothers, Dwarkadeshwar and Srila Prabhu. This is 1988 Pune Yatra. Here is the president, Subhash Bharate, who is Shyamanand Prabhu now. This is at the temple, the Devamrit Prabhu, while he used to work also. This is Pune Yatra. At Virar, Sanjeevani Hospital, Krishna Chandra Prabhu's birthday. Blowing conch at Mayapur, offering Arati to Srila Prabhupada. This is the installation ceremony of Gopalji in 1990, Govardhan Puja. Gaur Nitai, installation ceremony. He is offering Arati to Srila Prabhupada, taking his This is after he took sannyas in 1982 on Narsingha Chaturdasi day. This is the picture of taking sannyas. This is in 1976 with Srila Prabhupada when Prabhupada visited near Vrindavan Dham. This is as young brahmachari chanting Gayatri in near Vrindavan. This is after coming back from Vrindavan back to America at the New York airport. That's what I heard from Srila Prabhu. This is the picture of when he was brahmachari in 1980. When he had taken sannyas, 1984. This is in 1978 as a brahmachari. This is after he came back from Vrindavan. This is before he embarked on his mission to search God. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki.
Item, that is Srila Prabhupada's Rainbow Parade. So I would like to begin by calling Gaurang Prabhu, and after Gaurang Prabhu finishes offering, I would love to call Prema Bhakti Mataji.
Radhanath Maharaj, on this most auspicious occasion of your appearance day celebrations, as Govind Prabhu has requested, I would like to recall some of the wonderful exchanges which I have been fortunate enough to have with you, and so many wonderful things which all of us can learn from these incidents. First of all, before I joined the Brahmacharya ashram, when I was a student at IIT, one day I was in the temple and I was getting ready to go back to the college. At that time, as I was putting on my clothes, Krishnanand Prabhu was in front of me and he looked at me with very intent eyes and started saying, "I'm waiting for the day when I can see you in saffron." So when I heard this, at that time I was not very much prepared. I became quite scared. And after that, for the next 2 months, I was avoiding Krishnanand Prabhu like anything. Because I knew that he is a very intense person. But then still I wanted to confirm with you whether this kind of a desire I should have. And then Govind Prabhu one time took me to you, and then we were having a meeting, and you started asking me, now what are your plans? So at that time I said that I have not yet finally decided, but I am still thinking what to do. So then you said, we have some wooden lockers waiting for you here. And at that time I felt that it was like a kind of invitation. And then Govind Prabhu said, yes, it is invitation, it is definite. You must try to come. So then I started working towards that goal, and by your mercy somehow I could get an entrance into this ashram, fortunate enough to be with so many wonderful devotees, getting training here. After joining the ashram, one of the first services I had was in the kitchen, along with Sanat Kumar Prabhu, making prasadam for all the brahmacharis and the Gurukul devotees. And I learnt a lot of things from you. One day after cooking, I had gone up, and then someone came and told me that Maharaj is having prasadam with all the devotees and he's calling you immediately. So I came down thinking that maybe he's happy with something what I have cooked. And then on all the plates, all the items had been served, and everyone was looking very intently. No one was eating, everyone was just waiting. And you were also sitting in a very serious posture. So I felt something is seriously wrong. And I came near you, and then I came near and you said, you pointed at the dal which was there and said, what is this? So I was wondering, this is dal. Why Maharaj is asking like this? So I said, Maharaj, this is dal. And Maharaj said, but it is too cold. And I heard old. So I said, it's not old, it's fresh. I've just made. So I said, not old, it's cold. So I told Maharaj, but it's for the brahmacharis. They are austere and they will adjust. So Maharaj said, they are brahmacharis, they are not animals. You have to be concerned and you have to be personal, and you can't serve prasad like this. Prasadam means it should be always served hot. And then he said that from now on, whenever brahmacharis are served prasad, any guests are served prasad, make sure that it is always hot. In fact, even one time when we had gone to one grihastha's house, Maharaj made it a point that all the prasad which was served was again heated up and served out. And he said that the natural tendency is to be impersonal, but we have to go out of our way to make sure that everything is very proper. Then there was a lot of discussion about what should be the cooking medium in which we should cook. And then Maharaj was very much insisting that we should cook in ghee. And then we were saying that it's very costly, very difficult. And then recently we managed to do that, and all the prasad is being cooked in ghee. So I told Maharaj that at last your dream is being fulfilled. Now we are serving prasad cooked in ghee for all the brahmacharis. And Maharaj said, just see, the brahmacharis are giving their lives. The least we can do is give them some little ghee. So what is the problem? So I could understand that how much concern you have, how much love you have for all the brahmacharis. And sometimes we take it for granted because you're always around. but you're always contemplating, meditating, and thinking about how all of us can be happy and satisfied. One incident about your simplicity. One night I came back from a preaching program, and I was used to sleeping at one particular spot in the temple hall under a particular fan next to Srila Prabhupada. And when I came there, I found that someone was sleeping there. So I was like a little disturbed because I had become used to sleeping at that spot only. So I came very near to that person who was sleeping, trying to look who this was, because it looked a little unnatural, not one of the regular brahmacharis. So I came near the face and tried to look intently who was this. And I couldn't figure out who it was because the face was covered with a shawl. And I just said, "Kaun hai?" And the answer came, "Radhanath Swami." And I was so shocked, I just fell back and lay down as if I am now sleeping. I didn't know how to react, I didn't know what to do. And then I realized I have not offered obeisances before going to bed, so I got up and started offering obeisances. Prabhupada was behind me, I was offering obeisances the other way, and Maharaj said, "Whom you are offering obeisances to?" And I said, "Srila Prabhupada." I am saying Namo Om Vishnu Padaya. Maharaj said, "Prabhupada is behind you. Be conscious." So then I realized that how conscious we should be in all of our actions. Sometimes we just do things mechanically. And one of the very wonderful lectures I liked of Maharaj is when he explains all the various exchanges, how things become mechanical, how the arati we do, how the loving exchanges between Vaishnavas, everything tends to become mechanical. So I definitely need your special mercy to overcome this tendency. Recently, few months back, Maharaj was showing by his own example how to be a humble servant. He started washing his own clothes, and he started going all the way to the terrace, and he was drying his own clothes. And we were all bewildered why this was happening. And Maharaj explained to us and said that all of you should realize that you must always be careful about not taking service from others. And you should always know that whenever material opulence increases, there is always a chance for all kinds of infighting to develop. This has been the history of all institutions. Therefore, I am very much concerned that the loving spirit amongst all of you should remain. And therefore, I am doing this out of love for you. So Maharaj was always been very, very particular that none of the brahmacharis become overly proud, and is especially very much insistent that all the brahmacharis should be engaged in some kind of menial service. In fact, in the initial days, I think 5 years back, after the first Gita course was conducted in the temple in October of 95, Maharaj used to hear all the lectures in his room or sometimes outside the temple hall. And then after the first 2 lectures were over, then I had given the second lecture, and the next day Maharaj met me behind the DT room. And at that time I had a very long shikha, because after joining, that much of shikha had been left. So practically it covered the half of my back. So Maharaj came to me and then he caught hold of my shikha. And he said that, "Do you know the purpose of this shikha?" I said, "No, Maharaj. I've heard that it is usually used to prevent a disciple from falling down." Maharaj said, "Yes. When a disciple becomes unsurrendered, then a spiritual master picks him up with the help of this shikha. And longer the shikha means more unsurrendered." And then he said, "See, Devamrit Prabhu, he has very short shikha. He is so surrendered." And then he said, "Just see, yesterday so many people were offering obeisances to you, praising you, what a nice lecture. But here I am, holding your shikha and moving your head left and right, and you can't do anything. So you should always remember that you may go out and preach, but once you come back into this temple, you are just a humble menial servant. And these instructions you have been giving to all the brahmacharis repeatedly. In fact, after Srinathji Prabhu conducted the 11-day discourse on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj wrote a very instructive letter to me in which he mentioned that material fame, infamy will come and go, but then Krishna consciousness means lifetime commitment, and one must not be overwhelmed by all the praise and blame which one gets in this life. At all times you should remember that devotees greater than you and me have fallen down because of the uprising of pride within the heart. Therefore you should at no point of time consider yourself to be greater than even the new bhaktin who has joined the temple, who is washing the pots and who is engaged in menial service. And in fact, you have been very much concerned about this aspect, that a devotee, a preacher, can always be overwhelmed by false pride. In fact, after some time, the brahmacharis were celebrating birthdays. So on my birthday, we had a cake cutting ceremony at Maharaj's room. And very often Maharaj would be chastising me about how to be humble and how you should not become proud. So I was thinking today is the day where he will praise me, because it's a birthday after all and he may not be so heavy. So then the cake was arranged, all the brahmacharis came, and I was also sitting with hands folded, trying to show that I'm a very humble servant, and then expecting some words of praise, that now Maharaj will at last reveal to all the brahmacharis that I have some good qualities also. But then the knife was kept in front of the cake, and Maharaj picked up the knife and said, "Sadhu" means to cut. And then he started off that there is a mouse and there is a trap, and there are so many nice tidbits inside the trap. If the mouse becomes attracted to those tidbits, to those eatables, he will enter into the trap and will get caught and he will die. Similarly, pratishtha or fame and worship is like that. And a devotee should not become attached to that, and especially someone who is preaching should be very, very careful. Otherwise he will get caught in that trap and will perish. And then he went on for at least 15 minutes giving left and right. And then after that, last 30 seconds, in a very low voice, he spoke some sweet things which practically no one could hear. But then he made sure that he says both the aspects. And then the cake cutting ceremony was over. And then after I came out, so many devotees were saying, "My God, what a heavy cake cutting ceremony." Then we were in South India Yatra, and at Kurma Kshetra we were about to take bath in one lake. And then Maharaj asked me, "So do you know to swim?" And I said, "I don't know to swim." Maharaj said, "You don't know swimming?" I said, "No." Then Stok Krishna Prabhu was standing nearby. Maharaj said, "Stok Krishna, you know swimming?" I said, "Yes." "So teach him how to swim." I told Maharaj, "I have tried many times before, but I could never swim." Maharaj said, "You couldn't learn because you never accepted a guru. Now today you accept Stok Krishna as your guru, and he'll teach you." So I just folded my hands and said, "Okay, Stok Krishna Prabhu, you are my guru." Maharaj said, "Not so impersonally. You have to bend down at his lotus feet, take the dust of his feet, and beseech him, beg him, and fall at his feet, and then he will agree to teach you." And all the devotees were standing all around, and they were looking, and I was already removed all the clothes, only in the gamcha, and I was feeling, should I do it or not? Maharaj said, "Come on, do it, do it." And then ultimately I had to do it. But within my heart I was thinking that, no, I'm not going to learn today. But somehow Stok Krishna Prabhu managed to teach a little bit. And then I came out and told Maharaj that by your mercy I could learn a little bit. What I have not learned in so many years, I could learn today because you had empowered so Krishna Prabhu, and so I could learn. And Maharaj said, you should never forget the story of the boatman and the gentleman. So you may be like a gentleman, but then ultimately the gentleman drowned. The boatman was very simple, but although he was simple, he knew how to swim. Therefore, it is only simplicity and humility that can take you across this ocean of material existence and not your intellectual scholarship. So behind even this simple incident, he had a profound message. And as I was reading one of Prabhupada's analogy, that is how a tiger trainer trains a tiger repeatedly by hammering the same message again and again till the tiger realizes that my ultimate pleasure depends on the pleasure of this trainer. Similarly, it is impossible for a disciple to be trained unless he comes to this realization that my pleasure is dependent on the pleasure of the spiritual master. All the others may be pleased, but unless the spiritual master is pleased, Krishna cannot be pleased, and there is no hope for liberation. In fact, Radhanath Maharaj's wit is very well known. And we were going one time for a college program, and then there was a hoarding, a billboard, and the hoarding was advertising IBM company, the international company, business machines, IBM. So Maharaj said, do you know what IBM means? I said, no. So he said, you know, in US, what BM stands for? So I said, no. He said, in US, BM means bowel movement. That means when someone wants to go and pass stool, they won't say, I'm going to pass stool. They will say, I'm going for BM. That means bowel movement. It's like equivalent to passing stool. So the meaning of this IBM means I pass stool. Because people are filled with material desires and they are trying to propagate this on others. They have no purity, no Krishna consciousness, so it is as good as that. In fact, one of Maharaj's godbrothers, Pushkar Prabhu, was recently mentioning that Maharaj was in some place at United States, I don't remember the exact place, Alachua, and they were having a lot of meetings, very intense meetings. And the Back to Godhead office was also there, and the layout designer and photographer Yamaraj Prabhu, Maharaj was staying with him in the Back to Godhead office, in the BTG office there. So after attending some meetings, Maharaj was going back to the BTG office where Yamaraj Prabhu was there. So Maharaj told Pushkar Prabhu that now that these intense meetings are over, I am going back to the BTG office. And then he told Pushkar Prabhu that actually in history I am going to be the only person who will go back to Godhead and meet Yamaraj. And then Pushkar Prabhu was laughing like anything. And he was saying that in spite of such a situation where there were so many various kinds of problems going on, Radhanath Maharaj has such a wit, he has such a transcendental humor that can enliven anyone at the most surprising time. Some of the instructions which we have been giving very prominently in the last 1 year is that Srila Prabhupada has given us practically everything, and there is no need to leave Srila Prabhupada's movement trying to search for anything higher or anything more. You have been emphasizing on humility and service attitude, and only that will give realization. In fact, one time he was telling me that I just do not want you to speak about Krishna, I want you to realize Krishna. If you are simply engaged in studying all these books, then the maximum that will happen is you will spend the whole life speaking about Krishna. But then, to realize Krishna, you need humble service attitude. And Jananivas Prabhu, when he came here, he was mentioning that how this wonderful Radha Gopinath community reminds him of the spiritual world, which is exactly like a family. And Maharaj emphasizes this fact that unless there is a mood of a family, unless there is a culture which supports our spiritual life, it will be very, very difficult to continue spiritual life in the long run, because it will not be pleasing. And therefore, Maharaj, you have been emphasizing so much that all the brahmacharis, grihasthas, all the congregation members, sannyasis come together and create a most wonderful, charming mood in which spiritual life can be practiced most wonderfully. When the opening of Radha Gopinath deities took place this year, then Rupragnath Prabhu requested me that you can go and ask Maharaj whether he would like to dress Srimati Radharani. So then if Maharaj agrees, we can go and tell Jananivas Prabhu that Maharaj is doing Radharani, so he can dress Gopinath. So I went to Maharaj and said, Maharaj, would you like to dress Radharani tomorrow? It's a special festival. And then I suddenly thought that since Jananivas Prabhu is Pujari, he will definitely agree. So I told Maharaj that Jananivas Prabhu may also dress Gopinath, and if he knows that you are dressing Radharani, he will definitely. And Maharaj has such a love for Jananivas Prabhu that he came from his room, went into Jananivas Prabhu's room and said, if you are dressing Gopinath, I will definitely dress Radharani, because it's such a rare fortune to get to do service along with you. And he agreed. And we can see that the Radha Gopinath calendar for this year is having that picture. Gopinath was dressed by Jananivas Prabhu and Radharani by Maharaj. And the previous day, actually, it was the Vyaspuja celebration. It was such a heavy day, hectic day. But the next day, he was willing to go out of his way to please the devotees in this manner, and showing by his example that one must always try to put his heart and soul in service. In fact, this year, after the Janmashtami, after the Abhishek was over, usually we see that not many people are around, and then the winding up is done by the remaining few pujaris. So at around 11:15, the Abhishek was over, and I was expecting that Maharaj will leave. But then he came up and said, now where do these tables have to be taken? So I told Maharaj, we'll do it, because you can go and take rest, or you can meet the devotees. He said, no, tell me where these tables have to be taken. And without waiting for an answer, he started moving the tables after the Abhishek. And then immediately everyone swung into action. They saw that Maharaj wants to do service till the very end. And then after taking out the tables, then we thought that now it's over. So I told Maharaj, the tables have been removed. Now we'll arrange for the offerings. You can please leave. Maharaj said, where are the offerings? So I said, it's the next room, but we are just making arrangements. So Maharaj said, I would like to personally keep the offerings. And then we understood that really he wants to serve till the very end. One more reason was because at that time I was